All right, it's time for our first crazy build intro. This is one that we're not going to be able to see all the way to the finish line, or at least we're not going to be the ones finishing it, but today we're going to be showing you a S85 V10 out of a BMW M5 going into a E46 M3. All right, I think today we're going to introduce one of the builds that are going on at the shop. There's obviously a million, so sometimes you'll see a few of them all in one video, and sometimes you're going to see just one featured. And in today's video, I think we're just going to talk about one, so the video might be short. I'm not sure what we're going to cover in this video, but today I'm going to show you the S85 M5 engine going into a E46 M3. I've been working on this project on and off for the last several weeks. A lot of fabrication involved, a lot of head scratching and planning, and I think I'm about to be disappointed on seeing if it's going to fit with headers. So before I get to the stage of utter crushing disappointment, I wanted to show you guys what it's taken to get to this point so far. And if the headers don't fit, we're going to be making headers, although a lot of people on the tube, well, there's only like a handful of guys who have done this, but most of them figure out a way to make the stock headers work, and I agree that I would prefer to get the stock headers to work. So behind me on this side is a rebuilt S85. Now this project comes from R&M Performance and Palatine. They asked me to do a lot of the fab work. He owns or one of the two, owns the stick shift Fox with the Terminator motor. So they asked me to do a bunch of fab work on this, and a lot of fab work it has been. So let's start off with what we've accomplished so far. As of now, this is our second rendition of a trans mount. So this goes to the factory crossmember locations. We built a plate off the back of the transmission, welded a mount so we could put like a Mustang style crossmember, of course. There's an uneven bump in the floor there, so we just put a piece on top. And that's kind of where the whole thing started, was trying to get the trans located, get it centered in the car, and then we kind of worked our way forward from there, which basically turned into making a K-member. So you might see that this is kind of LS-esque, which is kind of where I got the idea from. We ended up cutting the center crossmember out. So you can see the tube that runs underneath here, and then it runs underneath this rack. So we cut the center out of this big like square frame deal, got rid of that, and then that way able to get the oil pan clearance, because the oil pan wasn't anywhere close to clearing with the stock situation in here. So we cut that out, and first we mounted the engine. So this was the motor mounts that we came up with, which basically tube to the top, and it's cut and elongated, so it's got a lot of strength. And then I put a gusset on the bottom that comes all the way out to here. Used some bushings and some 1 1/4" tubing, and made our own kind of motor mount right there. So that turned out pretty good. Nothing wrong with that. Then mounting the rack was a lot trickier, because once the motor was in, we had to be able to get this bar in here, land on this pad, and still be able to get to the bar on the bottom. So there's a tube that goes through this bottom bar that's holding this bolt in there. So that's basically sleeved on that lower tube. We had to land on it here and then make its way back up to the pad. And then since this whole contraption is large and in the way, I also wanted the whole rack mount to be removable. So it's got quick disconnects right there on both sides. This one's hard to see because the rack is in the way, but there's one on that side as well, so you can actually drop the whole cross member out of it. So if you remove the rack and you remove the cross member, then that's going to be able to be serviceable, so the engine can stay in frame if you had to do any kind of inspection on the bottom. But more importantly, you could drop the rack out of the way in like 3 seconds to remove the engine easily. So here's where the majority of the issues have come in so far. So obviously you see the booster's gone right underneath here in this area. Normally there would be a ABS module. That is gone. Ray, who is the R in R&M, is going to do all that. He's going to run a earlier M3 booster that's got a lesser diameter, so that should help him there. And then the ABS module is going to be relocated into this corner, which I guess is what they did on non-M3 cars. So he'll have to relocate all the brake lines. He's got a whole lot of work to do. But the engine, drive line, and all that stuff is located good. I have to modify the shifter. I'll show you guys. Here's the wall of M parts. So basically this needs, gotta cut like this much out of it. So basically when it starts to here, it's probably gonna get cut out of it. Then that mount will be welded together. I gotta sandblast it so it'll weld. And then I gotta cut this, weld that together. But that's what's gonna locate the shifter in the car. So I gotta wait till I'm happy with the engine and trans. And that'll allow us to move on to the shifter. This engine's kind of cool. Individual throttle body, V10. It's really small. I mean, it's large for this platform, but it's relatively small. And now my next challenge is going to see if I can get this steering shaft to work. So the steering shaft is definitely tricky because if you want to clear the stock headers, you pretty much have to come straight out of the firewall down. So you can see I just have my supports mocked up. I don't know where they're exactly going to end up. So this is kind of how it's going to go. This has to go like that. Then that support needs to be over here. Somehow like that. And then I got a support down here that I thought was going to fit into this hole, but it doesn't really seem to want to go there. So I'm probably going to have to put it into a tube and weld the tube there and then have a nut on the end of the tube so that can go there. This double joint deal allows a lot of different angles and fluctuation, but it requires support on both sides of it, otherwise it'll just flop around. So it could be unsupported essentially everywhere except for this joint, which now requires both of these rods to be supported to the frame rail. So that's where it's going to get interesting. And before I figure out where I want to put those supports, I want to see if the engine's going to fit with the header on it. And if the engine fits with the header on it, where can the supports be that won't get in the way? And then if both of those things go well, then I will remove the engine for the 19th time and make supports that go in those areas. And then also probably check the passenger side header to see if that fits. So that. Well, I told you it was going to be crushing disappointment, and in fact it was. So unfortunately, this did not go well. You can see I have the rack out, so I could slide the motor in and out easier, and I ended up running into an issue. So there's only a few of these built that we know of, only like a handful of them that have been on the YouTube. So what I've noticed as a common theme is header and steering are problems. So I saw one guy has his steering all MIG welded in, and that one looks like it all works okay, but I don't really like how it looks. But that doesn't have AC, so his engine was able to be on the passenger side of the car a little bit more. This one, they want AC really bad, so I had to balance between driver's side header clearance and the AC compressor. And you can see kind of like it hits right here. I don't know if you guys can see that. And it hits right here on the header now. So what I'm going to do is widen the frame rail distance. Which is kind of a pain because I'm going to fillet like a bunch out of the frame rail and maybe flat plate it. Actually, now that I'm looking at it, maybe I could just take like an inch out of the middle, top and bottom, and sandwich it in, but I don't think that's going to work as well as I'm thinking it will. So I'll probably end up like cutting it here along this body line and then over the body line. And kind of keep like 1 inch on both sides all the way down is kind of what I'm thinking. And that's going to help the radiator because you got an M5 radiator and that really doesn't fit in between here either. So it'll help that. It'll allow me to clear my AC compressor, and it'll probably allow me to use the factory headers with some modification, which I have already begun to modify. So I cut the cat off of it, and then it was double layered, so I just welded the top layer to the bottom layer so it looked better. And then a 2.5 inch V-band fits on there pretty dang good. So I'll be able to weld the 2.5 inch V-band. I'll back purge it because that part's got to be strong. And then I'll be able to build that from the other side. This is the 2-layer nonsense that you start with. So you can see there's actually a pipe on the inside and then an outside. That's the O2 bung I cut through to keep the length. Now I'll hit it with an angle grinder like right here, all the way around. Pull that cup off and stitch that together as well. And then my headers are modified. Here for Mustang stuff. Ta-da! Mustang stuff. Back to BMW stuff. So I'm going to drop the front suspension out, which I've done 100 times now, so that'll only take a second. Get that out of my way. Start marking up where I think I want to do this situation. I think I'm just going to go all the way from the front back till kind of like this corner here. Same on this side, back into the corner. And just take an inch all the way out and then plate it in. Might be done in a few pieces on each side, but it'll look good. We'll grind it, prime it, paint it. And it'll look nice, and it'll gain us a ton of room where the headers are becoming problems. This is the only thing I'm kind of worried about right here, is that it's double layer. So it might cut over like to this bump, and then maybe incorporate back into where it gets wide here. But that's an issue for the last primary and the steering, so I kind of want that to be moved over. I'm not sure. I'll cross that bridge when I get there, I guess. That's the only doozy, is this part here where it connects it to the rear subframe on both sides. It's unlikely that I'm going to time lapse what I'm about to do, so I'm going to modify the header and get to cutting. And I'll probably end up finishing that. I'll show you guys a cut apart tonight. And then tomorrow I'll probably plate it in, and then you guys will see the video probably end around there. I'll try to keep you guys up to date with what's going on at the shop as live as possible. Real quick, show you something cool Dan's been working on. Here's a cool one that's coming up. Coyote Swap IRS car. There's a big single turbo RGR Coyote. Pretty badass. It's getting an AEM, engine management system, for some reason. No, we didn't have much to do with that, but it's coming together. It doesn't look like it is. It's been more together than this already this week. And in this car's true fashion, it goes together, comes apart, goes together, comes apart, goes together, comes apart again. So now it's in the wiring stage, so we had to take off the charge pipe, take off the throttle body to be able to get to everything. Figuring out the boost control. It's going to have a leash because the Infiniti does not have internal boost control for CO2 control. You can do a single Mac valve, but who does that anymore? So it's going to still maintain a leash, which is lame. Would have been nice to have a Holly at this point, because now it's got an AEM dash and AEM ECU. Might as well just have Holly, and then you would have CO2 boost control. But anyway, I digress. .427, getting a blower, rear end, waiting for some parts for that, and that is for the Lightning truck. Finally making progress. Actually, all the blower drive stuff came for it today. We'll be showing you guys all that stuff in a video later. Tramp motor, bearings. I actually ordered different bearings that'll be here tomorrow that are not extra oil clearance. I'll discuss that in a future video. Just some stuff I want to use to make sure everything is exactly what I want. Finally have some Dominators in stock. Alright, let's just, let's do one of these right here. Alright, lots more room for activities. Got the majority of everything cut out. You can see I still have a huge fucking mess on the floor there. I gotta figure out what I want to do with this corner, because this is an area of high concern, but there's a lot of layers, sound deadening, ass. So tomorrow I'll straighten them out, clean up my mess, straighten everything out, and then figure out what I want to do up here, how far up the radiator can come, and that back corner. And then that, start making plates to start tacking back in here. Got some header modifications done. Oop, that's still one. So since it's 2 layers, that's just welding the top layer to the bottom layer so it looks better. Then I'm probably end up putting a V-bend on the end, so that'll look nice. It's gonna be much better now that the factory headers are gonna fit. This slight clearance issue probably saves $4,000 worth of custom V10 headers. Well worth it. Structurally altered, but we don't need that where we're going. Nobody needs to know. So keep that a big secret. Anyway, that's it for this car for the day. I'm going to try to finish it up tomorrow. I'll keep you guys in tuned if I get it boxed in. If not, you guys will see it in the next video when the car is being featured or something like that. Once again, thank you guys so much for watching the channel. Please hit the subscribe button down below. Stay in tune with the updates. Like I say this every video, but you don't do it anyway. And we'll see you guys in the next video.